Russia's aviation industry was condemned to death before the eyes of the world. In 1996, Western sanctions cut off all its lifelines overnight. Zero Boeing, zero Airbus, zero spare parts. Hundreds of modern jets suddenly turned into dangerous piles of metal. But the Kremlin's response shocked everyone. They had found the solution back in 1996. Only no one knew about it. Now, think about this. An entire country's air traffic is now carried on the shoulders of an aircraft that most people consider a museum piece. With its 4 engines, outdated technology, and Soviet-era design, the Il-96 became the world's most unexpected hero. Was this resilience or desperation? The answer tells the story of one of the most fascinating transformations in modern aviation history. On September 1996, as a 4-gen engine giant took off from the runway in Moscow, pride shone in the eyes of Soviet engineers. The Il-96 was not just an airplane in the final years of the Cold War. It was Moscow's answer to Boeing and Airbus for the entire world. Every detail reflected the most advanced technology of the era. The winglets reduced drag, and the new PS-96 engines were finally rivals to Western power units. The design goal was clear: it would carry Moscow to Tokyo, Havana, New York, offering intercontinental comfort, and most importantly, free the USSR from dependence on foreign aircraft. Test pilots spoke of this aircraft with respect. The Soviets can still innovate, they said. But behind this ambition lay a fatal assumption. The Il-96 was designed for a world that would cease to exist just 3 years later. A world of closed markets, state-owned airlines, and economic logic sacrificed to political priorities. December 1996 wiped everything out. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the Il-96's future crumbled overnight. Aeroflot, the world's largest airline, was split into dozens of smaller companies. The closed market vanished. Russian airlines suddenly could afford Western aircraft. And they did. Boeing flooded the market. Airbus A-6 followed. The logic was ruthless but simple. 2 engines consume less fuel. Western avionics require fewer crew members. Global support networks mean reliable maintenance. The Il-96 instantly became a dinosaur. Production figures tell the story. Only 1 or 2 aircraft were produced in the first decade, and in some years, none at all. Without volume, costs skyrocketed. Each Il-96 became prohibitively expensive. It entered a vicious cycle that sealed its fate. By 1996, even the Russian government conceded defeat. The Il-96 was officially shelved. A few were converted into cargo or government transport aircraft. Most ended up in scrapyards. The dream was over, or so it seemed. February 1996 redrew the aviation map. Russia's invasion of Ukraine triggered unprecedented sanctions. This was not just a political stance, it was a full-blown technological blockade. Boeing and Airbus deliveries were cancelled. Spare parts shipments stopped. Lease agreements became invalid. Russian airlines woke up to a nightmare. Hundreds of Western jets became fragile assets. No parts meant no maintenance. No maintenance meant planes grounded. Within months, airlines began dismantling aircraft. By stripping 1 plane, they kept 3 others flying. The crisis deepened. European airspace closed. North American routes were banned. Suddenly, flying from Moscow to Asia meant passing through narrow corridors over the North Pole or the Pacific. Fuel consumption skyrocketed. Flight times lengthened. What the West was really saying was, Russia cannot fly without our technology. Moscow's response: if you won't sell us planes, we'll build our own, the forgotten relic. The Il-96 suddenly looked different. Yes, it consumed more fuel. Yes, it was outdated, but it had an invaluable advantage: Every component was made by Russian engineers. There was no foreign dependency. No sanctions could touch it. Overnight, obsolescence turned into supremacy. The Kremlin saw more than just an airplane. They saw a symbol. They saw proof that Russia could maintain its global reach despite Western pressure, that isolation did not mean surrender. Why would the world revive a four-gen engine dinosaur when it uses efficient twin-gen engine aircraft? The answer begins with a harsh necessity. Are there any other long-gen range jets Russia can produce without using Western components? The list is short. The Il-96. That is it. The Yakovlev, Mak, Fu Arshii, and Sukhoi Superjet are either in development or problematic. Both were dependent on Western components before the sanctions. With the Il-96, every bolt, cable, and line of code can be sourced domestically. In a sanctions environment, this is not just valuable, it is vital. But there is more. That four-engine setup everyone mocks is insurance. Russian flights now operate on routes hours away from suitable airports. When flying over the Arctic, between closed airspace zones, redundancy is more important than fuel economy. Two engines may be efficient. Four engines get you home. The Il-96's range is also becoming critical. With direct routes blocked, Russian airlines are flying with major detours under current restrictions. Only a true long-range aircraft can connect Moscow to Latin America or Southeast Asia. Then consider the Kremlin's specific needs. This is Putin's preferred aircraft. That is no coincidence. Government VIP flights demand absolute security and sovereignty. Military variants require platforms beyond foreign influence. Strategic cargo demands reliability over efficiency. Too many concessions have been made. The Il-96 consumes fuel. Maintenance is complex. Operating costs are high, but what is the alternative in normal times? Efficiency wins. But these are not normal times. When cooperation ends, self-sufficiency becomes the only value that matters. The Il-96 is not a means of transport. It is a declaration of flying independence, a 300-ton middle finger to sanctions. Reviving a 1980s passenger aircraft is not enough. Russia needs the Il-96 to be competitive in the 2020s. The Il-96-400M is entering service. Same skeleton, new brain. The transformation begins in the cockpit. Analog instruments are gone. Digital displays dominate. Flight management systems compete with Western jets. The requirement for a three-person crew is a thing of the past. Modern Il-96s fly with two pilots. Operational costs are falling. Cabin improvements focus on important details: LED lighting, advanced climate control, quieter interiors. The 300 passenger capacity is competitive with mid-size wide-body aircraft. It is not luxurious by Emirates standards, but it is functional for an airline operating under sanctions. The real challenge lies in replacing Western-made components before sanctions. Il-96s contained foreign avionics and systems. Now, every imported chip, sensor, and display must be replaced with Russian alternatives. Each replacement requires testing, certification, and building trust. Imagine reverse engineering decades of Western innovation under pressure. Then there is the engine issue. Current Il-96s use Aviat PS-90s. They're reliable but consume a lot of fuel. Russia is developing the PD-35, a new generation high thrust turbofan. The dream is a twin-engine Il-96 that can finally match Western efficiency. But dreams collide with reality. The PD-35 mostly exists on paper. Certification could take years. Until then, 4 engines will remain mandatory. This is where the interesting part begins. Russian engineers are achieving this under embargo, and with limited resources, they are building modern aircraft. Not the latest technology by global standards, but functional, optimal. Does it work? Yes, despite all the challenges, for years, Russia took a different path. It collaborated. In 2017, a partnership was formed with China's Comac company for the CR-929 project. The twin-engine aircraft, with a capacity of 250 to 320 Pascal cengers, would rival Airbus and Boeing. Russia would supply the wings and PD-35 engines, while China would handle the fuselage and assembly. But the 2022 sanctions changed everything. Comac feared Russia's involvement would tarnish the project. In 2023, the KR-929 became the C-929. Russia was left out. The collapse of the partnership reinforced Moscow's forced shift toward the IL-96. When the collaboration ended, you are left with what you can build on your own. Russia wants 2 IL-96s per year. The Voronezh factory was producing 1 or 2 per year, restarting a dormant line, finding and training workers, sourcing thousands of parts is a difficult process. Soviet-era engineers retired, died, or emigrated. The knowledge went with them. Economically, the math is brutal. Low volume means astronomical costs. Each IL-96 is much more expensive than a Boeing 787P. The technical details aside, forget fuel consumption and production rates. The IL-96 is about something bigger. Every completed aircraft that leaves Voronezh sends a message. Russia endures, sanctions haven't broken us. We can still produce complex machines, maintain global reach, and demonstrate our strength. The psychological dimension runs deep. Aviation has always been Russia's calling card, from Sputnik to Soyuz, from MiGs to the Sub. Accepting dependence on the West for something as fundamental as air travel wounds national pride. The return of the IL-96 heals this wound. Practically speaking, this is a sovereignty multiplier. When Putin boards his IL-96 to attend an international summit, he flies on a Russian aircraft. Diplomats rely on Russian engineering when crossing sanctioned airspace. No foreign government can ground these planes with a phone call. The global implications extend further. If Russia demonstrates that sanctions-resistant aviation is possible, other countries will take note, no matter the cost. Nations facing Western pressure may seek alternatives. Boeing and Airbus's duopoly in aviation suddenly doesn't seem so invincible. Will it work? That is almost beside the point. The attempt itself changes the game. It shows that technological homogeneity is not permanent. It proves that determination can replace efficiency. Sovereignty comes at a price, and some countries will pay that price. The IL-96 is no longer just an aircraft. It is a bet on the future of global power. From the ambitions of the Cold War era to the resurgence brought about by sanctions following the collapse of the Soviet Union, this aircraft embodies Russia's entire modern journey. Can it succeed? Success may not mean what we think it means. Perhaps the IL-96 will never match the efficiency of the Boeing 787. Perhaps it will remain a niche player. But if it keeps Russia connected, preserves its sovereignty, and proves that sanctions cannot ground an entire nation, isn't that a victory? We are witnessing something unprecedented. The first major test of aviation supremacy in the modern era. What do you think? Is Russia's bet on the IL-96 visionary or delusional? Can isolation breed innovation, or will the economy inevitably prevail? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just about one aircraft or one country. It is about the future of flight in a divided world.